have you learned from this last experience?
What have I learned? I've learned that animation can be very demanding. This is a whole departure for Don and I as far as the style of animation we do. And I'm very excited about it.
Mm-hmm. And what did the idea of Titan AI come up? Because it was bound to be by two directors first. Not you, not Don.
Yeah, it was another director and a different producer. The idea originally was going to be a live-action movie, and the other director and producer were going to make it a CGI movie. And I think when Fox discovered how expensive that would be, they said, maybe we should make this traditional and maybe with some CGI. So they approached Don and I about taking the pre-production design work and for us to handle the production itself. So we were started with just only about 40% CGI, and we ended up with almost 85% CGI, and we just in every scene.
Mm-hmm. How do you mix the CGI with the 2D characters? Because you have to compromise something of the two techniques.
Yes.
To blend.
Well, what we try to do is make the live action more real, with a lot of shadow work on the characters, the highlights in the eyes, the highlights on the lips. It's about lighting. The CGI stuff, we would take the lighting down, hand paint tiles that would be mapped onto the CGI images so that we wouldn't have to paint them as a computer element. They would be hand painted, giving them a more hand-drawn or hand-created appearance and marry them better to the traditional animation. And I think it worked. I think that the combination of traditional animated effects, explosions with CGI explosions, works very well. And I think that the pacing of the film is important to that as well, because it's very fast-paced, so we don't let you look at any one scene very long. Musically, even with the use of rock and roll underneath it, the score is fairly traditional and helps sell these emotional moments in the picture. And I think it's easy to identify with our characters in this movie especially. The emotional impact of Kale when he doesn't want to help and he doesn't want to be this hero, even though that's his fate and he's going to have to be the hero, to the moment where he decides he should help. You know, when he sees this young boy playing soccer and he says, you see it in his eyes, and you hear it in the music, that this is the moment that he decides, I've got to help these people. I think what we've done here is carry an audience through an hour and a half of a suspension of disbelief where it's a different world than you've seen before. You know, it's different than the science fiction you've seen in the past. It's different than the animation you've seen in the past.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I hope to see you soon.
I hope so too. I want to come back to Argentina.
Oh, anytime.
Hi, David.
For an animated feature, and how do you make the music for another band in an animated feature? Because this is different from a live-action film.
Yeah, it's everything happens much quicker in an animation. I think we have 82 minutes instead of maybe 120 minutes, and so the craft aspect of it, we have to do everything very carefully to keep out of the way of dialogue. But the most important thing, I think, is that the songs in particular tell the story of the film. And GLen was able to create 11 songs whose lyrics function as a storyteller for the main character. And you don't have to do that in live action.
Is it difficult to create the songs and choose the bands and say, well, this song goes here, this song goes there, or this song is not for this part, let Graeme.
Yeah. It wasn't that difficult, really. I mean, because Graeme has such an understanding of contemporary rock music that he was able to see how it would function, I think, better than a lot of composers would, and was always willing to say, the song works great here, let's let this be song. And I was, I think, always saying, no, I want this to be score, and he would go, no, I think that's a song moment. And
we're all just trying to avoid working.
Exactly.
How do you manage to make the music sound good with all the effects on the shootouts and the yelling and the screaming and the songs?
Well,
Muy
I guess
complicado.
Yes, it seems easy to me, but I suppose it's 60 films, you know, you kind of get used to the idea. But I have a unique background. I was involved early on in the first wave of industrial music in Europe, and so my whole way of creating music is to have, you know, people screaming and jackhammers and that all, it's all music to me. So I can, we worked very closely with the special effects people on this when they came to my studio, and they said, you know, we're going to be doing whale sounds here, so you figure out that you don't do anything in that frequency range, and it's a kind of a big scientific exercise. But eventually you want something that is fun, exciting, and emotional.
How do you choose the bands to go with this song?
Well, I think for the initial stages of the picture, we wanted something with a lot of energy, with a rock edge, because it seemed to correspond to the character of Keley. He was frustrated, he was arrogant, he was a rebel. Later in the picture, he's still a rebel, but he's got a cause at that point, which is to save the Earth or to remake the Earth. At that point, it seemed like we wanted a little more anthemic and pop aspect to the songs. Jamiroquai would be great for probably one of the comic moments. A band like Texas would be great for a really anthemic, emotional scene.
I think that the songs would very well integrate.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.
Yeah,
Thanks.
great.
For Titan, your first science fiction movie.
You know what? There were two other directors that actually started this movie. And I think Fox wanted to make a different movie that was not like Anastasia or some of the previous animated films that have been done. So it started there.
It was called Planet Ice.
Planet Ice.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a much different story. And when Gary and I came onto the picture, about a year after they started it, they went on to do something else, and we came into the picture and said, okay, now what are we going to do with this? There's been tons of artwork created that is absolutely beautiful. So we decided to use a lot of that. But the script itself, I didn't think was quite there, because it really wasn't oriented into the characters of the story. It was more about the space experience. So where I usually check in is I say, hang on a minute, if this is a movie or a story, I really do need to know those people on screen, and that's what it's about. This movie is about those people and their problem.
Then you call Joss Whedon.
Yeah, Joss came in, and we talked a lot about, who is Keley? What does he do? And Joss did a pass at the script and everything, and so we just kept pushing the humanity of Keley because it's about that. And when Keley's just a little kid, he's only 5 years old, and in comes a horrible power called the Dredge, comes in and blows up the world. And then a few people escape, Keley being one of them. His father takes this gigantic space machine out there in outer space and hides it somewhere. And then he doesn't come back, he dies. So Keley grows up being really, really bitter. He's the bottom of a pecking order. A lot of aliens are around him, but he doesn't have other human beings. And he's not a happy guy. He's really, really unhappy. And so the movie is really about how do we get Keley happy? And how does he connect once again with his very humanity?
You have to compromise some technical things to blend the two techniques together.
Not at all. And I think the computers nowadays are so sophisticated that it gets your job to be quite easy. Pile on top of this the visuals, the music. Because to hit that teenagers audience, I think you have to have some pretty edgy music too. Glen Ballard, who has brought some pretty hot bands in, and those bands are playing a lot of the songs that you'll find in this movie. I think that's going to help.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope you see you soon in Argentina.
That'd be great to do.
Okay.
Okay, it's a pleasure. You
Nice
take
to
care.
meet you.
You too.
How do you combine? That's why I want to make this movie. Why? Because I think the martial art and the culture and the situation, it makes it a great movie. The culture, the Chinese culture to Western culture. The situation is we don't have a big explosion, motorcycle, car, helicopter, only nothing. Indian, tomahawk, water, trees, bar, fight scene. Then becoming a good story. And then I have an Indian wife. Then Owen Wilson. I don't know. Always, I have a sense, like a sixth sense.
You see that people?
Yeah. No, I know it works. Somehow all those years when I make every movie, I know it works. I know the audience, they like it. Especially I'm not only make local film. It's not like a Hong Kong film. No, when I make the film, it's for everybody. Even I make the old film, Chinese film, every Argentina people understand. Everybody, mostly I make is a comedy with a body language. Even you don't know the story, don't know the dialogue, you know what happened going on. That's what I would like to do.
So it's a kind of a silent movie, the old Western silent movie where you can understand without the words.
Yes, yes. So even now, you after 80 years ago, 50 years ago, when you look at back in film, you still understand. No matter what country people you are, you look at, ha ha ha, wow, big stunt, yes. You know, that's what I want to follow the step, continue to do these kind of things.
Okay, tell me about your character. Is inherently evil or power makes him evil?
I think that I think he's kind of predisposed to becoming the monster that he becomes. I think that he's very he's self-involved. He is he believes that the end justifies the means at all costs.
And he also believes that people owe him things.
Owe him things, yeah, yeah, and he is you know, he's power hungry, and he also is sort of very has power and sexuality all kind of mixed up together, you know. He wants to rule the world basically. So when he gets this power.
Do you think Kevin Bacon's character is inherently evil, or powers makes him evil?
I think the seeds of evil were already inside of him. I don't think invisibility was the only reason why he became evil, but I also think the seeds of evil are in a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily become evil unless they were going through extreme circumstances like he goes through.
And your character has
My
seeds
character?
of evil?
No, she's nice. She would have never become evil, but I think she would have loved to experience some of the darker sides of life, and I think she would have been very voyeuristic, possibly, and but no, I don't think she would have ever hurt anybody.
No. Apart from being a science fiction thriller film, this deals with, it's a love story, and it's a story about you and Kevin Bacon character, because in the moment you say, it's not what you see or don't see, what you feel inside. Do you think that's the theme of the movie, or one of the themes?
I think that could be one of the themes, yeah. I think it's a movie about, you know, don't believe what you think you see or don't see, that it really isn't about that, because it's only about what's inside. And the fact that we can't see Kevin Bacon's character all through the movie, and yet we feel him there so intensely that you really can't trust your eyes.
We just fighting comedy, you know, we don't have a purpose to do some stunt to appreciate the audience. We have to follow the script. I think right now the acting comedy, then the fighting. Before, when I'm making a film, fighting, fighting, fighting. Now, story, production, comedy, fighting, drama. The fighting is okay now. I think the American audience, they really appreciate the situation and the action. These kind of things. This film pretty difficult because there's no, like I say, there's no helicopter, no tall building. Only thing we have is a river, trees, horse. What can you do? And horses, when you fight, they scare, they run away. Okay, no horse. Water, okay. Then we use some water, tomahawk, spear. Then I use my own things, the rope with horseshoes. And I'm proud of myself to use all kinds of things. I can use everything become a weapon. Yeah.
And it was your idea to do the lasso with the horseshoe and the bar fight.
Yes, because when I look at the bar, we kind of, I suppose there were more things going on because the timing. Then I just see whatever you have. You have a light, okay, I use the light. You have a analog, I use the analog. That's what I'm good at. And I already did. But before the movie, I already decided what to do the shoe horse. Yeah.
And the horseback riding, how was it?
For me, before it's terrible. I'm scared about horses, but at the end, becoming a fun. Now I can get on any horses. I can control them. Before they control me, but now I can control them.
So you apply your philosophy to the horses.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Conocido, nunca ha sido una estrella de Hollywood ni ha traído multitudes a sus películas como Tom Cruise, Mel Gibson o Harrison Ford. Sin embargo, Bacon ha sido desde 1994 el centro de un juego llamado Los 6 grados de Kevin Bacon. Las instrucciones del juego son simples: conectar a Kevin Bacon, el centro del universo, según los autores, con otro actor o actriz a través de su filmografía en menos de 6 pasos o grados. Un ejemplo sería, George Clooney estuvo con Nicole Kidman en El Pacificador, que estuvo con Tom Cruise en Ojos Bien Cerrados, que estuvo con Kevin Bacon en Cuestión de Honor. Todo comenzó cuando 3 estudiantes secundarios llamados Craig Fass, Brian Turtle y Mike Ginelli estaban viendo en la televisión una publicidad de una película de Kevin Bacon. A alguno de ellos se le ocurrió que el actor había trabajado en tantas películas y de tan diversos géneros que se lo podía conectar con cualquier actor o actriz de Hollywood, vivo o muerto. Bacon estuvo desde la primera Martes 13 hasta en superproducciones como Apolo 13 o JFK, pasando por comedias como Footloose o películas de suspenso al estilo de Ecos Mortales y ahora El Hombre Sin Sombra. Lo que comenzó como una broma entre amigos fue creciendo hasta terminar en un programa de televisión, The Jon Stewart Show, donde los jóvenes fueron invitados a demostrar su juego. Rápidamente, Los 6 grados de Kevin Bacon se popularizó en la industria del cine y en Internet. Al poco tiempo, los 3 estudiantes editaron un juego de mesa y un libro con prólogo del mismo Kevin Bacon, algo que ellos agradecen holgadamente porque, como dicen en su libro, Kevin Bacon es Dios. Jugar a Los 6 grados de Kevin Bacon es relativamente fácil y ha probado ser no solamente un entretenimiento norteamericano, sino mundial. Por ejemplo, las celebridades nacionales también pueden ser relacionadas con Kevin Bacon. Si no, vean. Jorge Porcel estuvo con Al Pacino en Carlitos Way, que estuvo con Kevin Spacey en Busca de Ricardo III, que estuvo con Brad Pitt en Pecados Capitales, que estuvo con Kevin Bacon en Los Hijos de la Calle. Como bien dijo Pancho Ibáñez, todo tiene que ver con todo.
Las respuestas han sido más que redondas.
Play in 6 Degrees of You?
Yeah.
Yeah, still play?
Still play it, yeah.
And you play yourself?
No.
No?
No, never played.
No, why?
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't care?
I don't care.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And we'll be nice.
How do you blend the comedy, the situation comedy of yours is a kind of slapstick, gross out comedy and love story, because all your movies are love stories.
Yeah.
At the end.
Well, it's the love story that we really, the way we approach a movie is the first thing we do is we try to set up a character that's so likable that you can do the kind of gags we do hanging on that type of thing. So, it's really, we think it's one-dimensional just to have jokes. And when you have an underlying story with some heart, I think that's what makes a movie great. So we really approach it from that angle.
Half of the stuff is things that have happened to us or our friends or a story that we hear. Some of them we make up. And that one actually was one that, yeah, so, I mean, you make up half, the other half are from real life, but, we're not afraid to go for jokes. I mean, I think when Pete came up with that one there, and at first here, you're like, yeah, it sounds like it's a little out there, but let's do it. You never really know what's going to be really funny and what's not. So we're willing to shoot, we're willing to film anything, and then we get it in front of an audience, and we'll show it to them. And if they find it funny, it's a great thing for us. And if they don't, it's gone. We don't keep our own favorites just because we like it. We really, allow an audience to tell us what they enjoy.
How Jim Carrey has changed since Dumb and Dumber and now? I think it was a...
Yeah.
He has a bigger trailer.
Yeah.
No, he hasn't changed as much as you'd think.
About money,
yeah.
Not money.
Yeah.
He hasn't changed as much as you'd think. Everyone else has changed the way they deal with him. Everyone, Jim Carrey, obviously he's a much bigger star, so necessarily he's a little bit different. But himself, as a person and as an actor, he's just like he was before. He's a really great guy, and of course he's a brilliant comedian and actor. So, we love working with him.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that struck me was the change in Charlie into Hahn is handled differently every way.
The first one is Jim Carrey, a lot of the faces. Then is the Hitchcock zoom traveling, and then there's every different way.
Yeah. Well, what we didn't want to do is it gets redundant if you every time you know. And really, that was the first one that he broke into. So it was after years of this guy trying to get out. So the first one really was a. And after that, it seems to come out easier and easier until the point where at the end, he's both guys at once. So we wanted to show you that it is this other personality is emerging, you know, and getting stronger.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Real pleasure. Good to see you again.
Yeah. What is your approach to the movie visually and storytelling?
Well, every movie I approach differently, you know, from a standpoint of style. And in this movie, because it's a, you know, it's a modern sort of fable. You know, it's like a children's story that you hope is smart enough and funny enough that the whole family can really enjoy it. People of all ages can enjoy it. But part of it is I wanted to transport people into this world. It's a kind of a funny, off-balance, you know, sort of a place. And so I thought that more aggressive camera work that was a little more stylized and more interesting in that way, would make it more fun and make it a, you know, a very unique movie to look at.
And in terms of visual and art direction, what was your approach to the movie?
Well, we had some clues from the author's work, but there are just thin sketches. So one of the things that the production designer did was he brought in a book, the Spanish architect Gaudi, who
in Barcelona.
Yes, you know, created these amazingly whimsical creations, these buildings that are very functional. So we wanted to make it a world that looked like it functioned. You know, that people there had, you know, real jobs, real lives that we could all relate to. Because I'm a creative person, and I created this movie not as a sort of an adjunct to the book, but as its own entity, as its own fantasy world.
How does it feel to be with a movie star like Jim Carrey?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Jim Carrey he's such a great actor, and it was a great, I feel very, I feel like I had a great privilege to work with him, and such great people like Ron Howard, and Jim Carrey, Molly Shannon, Bill Irwin, Christine Baranski, Jeffrey Tambor, everything. Just working with everybody was excellent. It was a lot of fun for me.
That's what's great about this, is that you just kind of like, you create a certain aspect of the character. The lighting person creates part of it, you know, the makeup creates part of it. And at the end, it all comes together, and it's just this, you know, amazing collage of a lot of different people's artistry. It's great.
But first you think it as non-makeup acting, because you did the audition with Andy Kaufman doing the Grinch.
Yeah.
How was that?
Andy was doing me doing the Grinch.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. Well, I can't do a very good Andy. You know, but he does a better me than I do him. But it was quite confusing. But you know, Audrey was able to look through all the personalities and finally like get down to the Grinch. It was great. It was fun.
And how do you end up doing the Sean Connery accent?
Oh, right. Well, you know, see, again, that was like mostly the teeth. It was just like that, you know? And the idea that he's so kind of frustrated and angry that he grits his teeth down to a fine powder.
What do you teach?
I taught her basically what I consider everything as far as, well, to the script, and we added things. I had things in her just in case we were able to use them, which we did. We teach what we call a basics, which is sit, lie down on your side, retrieve, speak, sit up, and I'll use that because now I've seen it done. I go, oh, okay, I can do that. And it's just where you are, how far you take it, you know. And I think the capability is huge out there. I still think that we've just touched the surface with them. Speak. Kelly, speak. Good, speak. Good, speak. Good. On your feet. On your feet. Good. Sit. Good. Speak. Good. Sit up. Good. Stay. Hide it. Hide it. Hide it. Good. Stay. Lie down. Shake your head. Good. Stay. Put your head down. Head up. Good.
You feel doing a family and target movie because it's your first one.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that because, you know, it's a hip one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Grinch is hip, you know? So it's not...
It's cool to be bad.
Yeah, but it's not like, it's not, you know, yeah, so you're still in that world, but at the same time, you know, I've done a couple of R-rated movies in a row now, and I'm looking forward to going into the back of the theaters and seeing little kids, you know, and seeing adults reduced to little kids, you know, which is, it's part of the thrill of this too, you know.
How do you do without being too frightening or too scary for the kids? Because all the greens and the ugly faces, they're cute.
Yeah. Well, the difference is the Grinch is hurt. He's not hateful. He's just hurt, you know. He wants to be part of you had to remember that he really wants to be invited to the party. But he's just defensive, you know. He's built up this holier-than-thou attitude because, you know, because he's convinced himself that he doesn't need it, you know, because he wasn't welcome. So, you know, that happens to a lot of people. If I could remember that while I was performing, it was easier to make him like it.
And I'll tell you the David Blaine thing. You gotta tell me something about Matrix now.
Yes. Okay.
Quid pro quo, like.
Yes. No, we were
said.
speaking about magic earlier. So, but yes, I started training for the Matrix about 2 months ago. Myself, Morpheus, Lawrence Fishburne is back, and Agent Smith, who's Hugo Weaving, and Trinity, Carrie Ann Roy. She got married. She used to be Carrie Ann Moss, but now she's Carrie Ann Roy. And we've been training for 2 months. We have 2 more months, and we start filming at the end of March, early April.
And story?
That you didn't tell me that much about magic.
Yeah.
No.
Just as a little scoop.
What can I tell you? Well, before all of my action sequences were one-on-one, and now it's one against many. So it's much more sophisticated, and part of the story is dealing with a kind of war against the machines. A lot more of it takes place in Zion.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Really enjoyed the movie. I have a present for you. Where do you draw the inspiration from the characters? Because you write and you write very colorful characters. You know, the Jewish, the blacks, the Americans, the gamblers.
Right, but these are all characters that are traditionally not necessarily explored in English films, and I wanted to expose them, and English subcultures, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Do you see the movies you make like this as a counter reaction to the old English movies?
Yes, I do really. I mean, I try to make it as entertaining and as fast-paced and as credible as I could, in a degree, to a reaction to traditional English cinema.
Mm-hmm. And in traditional English cinema, what films do you like? For example, I assume you like the old gangster movies, like the 70s, like Get Carter or something.
Get Carter is a brilliant film. In fact, I saw it again the other day, and if you watch it closely, it's actually even better than you think. It's a great film, Get Carter. So I'm a big fan of that, and The Long Good Friday I was a big fan of. Other than that, I don't think there were very many other English films in the gangster genre which were very entertaining.
Say the films you make were too violent or not very real because you don't came from the underclass, you know, low class. How do you feel about that?
Fine. I mean, I don't think you necessarily need to give birth to know that it hurts, and just because you make a film about something that you don't necessarily, because you're not from that world, is by the way. I just think it's important if you can throw some insight and some light on a subject such as that.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel pressure when you cast Brad Pitt? In terms of you're just going to start a Hollywood movie star and you're making a very English movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't want to put Brad Pitt in a film and then for it to fail. But Brad was very accommodating, and from the first 15 minutes, I knew that everything was going to be okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's I have an extreme passion and excitement and eagerness to go and tackle those characters. I'd rather go and play a character that has somewhat of a dimension to her than a character that is just a one-tone character. It's more interesting to me. Those are the kind of people that I like to see on screen. And they're just the kind of people that I'm intrigued by. And I think those characters, that's the reason why I pick those characters. And I think it's, you know, there needs to be a certain amount of trust and confidence between you and your director from both angles, for me and for him, to trust that that job will get done and that we're both going to try and make it the best as possible. But I think in the beginning you need to, I think, feel safe enough to know that that person is going to be able to at least try to get there. So, you know, I think from meetings and talking about characters and from the body of work that I have, I think directors might have seen that.
And how do you work on your character? Because it's very complex. When she begins as she's having control, and then she loses. She's I found her so interesting because I think it's such a human behavior to try and control something else if you can't control one other thing in your life. And she has been dealt this hand of cards that has really changed her life. And so she can't control it. It's happening to her. So she goes and she finds something else she can control. And she takes these men in who are workaholics and self-involved, and they have all these problems, and she tries to help them with their problems. And I think it's a cathartic way for her to go through that process, because she's doing the actions of helping, but she's not necessarily aiming it towards herself. She's not helping herself. And all of that I found very interesting about her, and trying to discover who she is and how to play her. Did it help that you knew Keanu from Devil's Advocate?
Yeah, you know, the personal part of it helps a lot, because you, from the beginning, feel extremely comfortable, because you know the person and you know how they work, you know their moods, you know their dislikes, and so you feel much more comfortable with them than when you're meeting somebody for the first time and you don't necessarily know how they like to go through the movie-making process. But the acting part of it, I mean, I like the way he works. It's very similar to how I work, and I knew that from Devil's Advocate. So we knew our processes, but discovering these characters were like, I've never met Keanu in my life. I mean, playing these characters were completely fresh.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
For a while, yeah, I did a film once called A Walk in the Clouds.
Yeah.
And I really liked the story. I really liked the journey of the characters. I like what the film says. I enjoyed the writing. I think it's funny. I think it's very romantic. It's bittersweet. And so I think life can be bittersweet, you know, and it sometimes is so wonderful, and sometimes it's terrible. And but you make your way, and I think that this film is connected to that. I think it, you know, it kind of shows that.
Now, your character is very complex because it begins with control of things, and he meets her, and he loses it, and then he regains control again, because the last part, he's the command.
Yeah, but she's, you know, she's asking him. She kind of, in a way, asks him to lose control, so that because she can't.
Mm-hmm. Would you do that in the situation? The same
Which
thing?
one? Myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. If someone asks you just for a month?
No. Okay, I lied.
No, shall leave, but
Another woman.
Another Sarah Deaver, her character?
Yeah.
You know what? I have actually been asked that before, and I've said no.
You do?
I did. Not quite like this, but I've had, you know, a woman say to me, look, you don't have, let's just go. Let's just go. And I said no.
How do you feel about it?
I feel okay about it, actually.
You do that from experience to
excuse me,
to do your character. You do that from that experience to make your character alive.
Well, I think I've had a lot of the same kind of not circumstances, but the same kinds of things happen to me. I have been work obsessed. I have been closed off to my character's a workaholic. I have met people who are ill. I have met free spirits. I have been closed off. I have fallen in love. So a lot of what's happened, but I'm not Nelson Moss. You know, I'm very different than he is, and so for me, to play that part was challenging, and I was excited by the challenge. You know.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
I have no idea. No. A producer is you know, it's funny, I'm kind of a team builder, I'm kind of a coach, I'm kind of a cheerleader sometimes, I'm a psychotherapist sometimes, and it's a person who has to help the 600 people that it takes to make these movies do their best work. Sometimes it's like herding cats, you know, you're kind of trying to get them all together to work together to make a movie that looks like one person drew it and ultimately feels really a satisfying, fun movie for the audience when it comes out.
Yeah, the audience think that Disney is making a movie a year because they released one by one, but they took 4 years to make one. What are the stages of doing an animated movie like this one?
Well, it's funny, we overlap a lot. So when films like Mulan were coming out, we were actually working on Atlantis. When Tarzan came out, we were working on Atlantis. And so we started back in 1996 working on this film. It's taken 4 years to make it, and even though we release a film, sometimes 2 every year, we start really early because the process of making a film one frame at a time and doing the millions of drawings that it takes to make one of these films just takes a long, long time.
What made you decide that it was a movie without songs, towards a larger audience, towards teenager and adventure?
Right. When we started out making this movie, we knew it was an action-adventure movie, and we were open to having songs in it, but the more we thought about it, the more it seemed silly to have this team of sweaty explorers heading off to Atlantis singing about Atlantis, and it just didn't seem like it fit. And we thought, well, let's just celebrate that genre, which is a really fun, idea about a group of explorers. We love movies like The Dirty Dozen and The Great Escape and Magnificent Seven, and we thought, let's make a movie like that, where a bunch of guys, it's not a musical, and they go down and find this amazing lost civilization. And it was fresh for us. It was interesting. Animation itself is a fabulous medium where you can take the audience anywhere, and so we decided to take the audience to a little bit different place this time.
Flesh out your character because it's very complex and you're on screen all the time. It was a very challenge for you because it's a big departure from your movies. To be a romantic comedy, a leading role.
Well, I left a lot of that to Tony Goldman because I was kind of working so much that my head was spinning. So he was always very aware of where we were in the script, where we were in the pacing of the movie. He was very specific about how he wanted things to play.
Stand out this Kiki from the other characters you portray in other.
Oh, they're all different characters. I mean, the setting of a romantic comedy is a very unoriginal setting. But
falling in love with Becca, then being a womanizer, and then
I think probably actually he was a womanizer before Rebecca, but he falls in love as a big surprise to him.
How they came up with the idea of a junket?
Well, here we are at one, and it's a fun place to be. I've always enjoyed them, but they're always they were always a situation where you keep saying, we had such a great time, and so on and so forth, and I kept thinking, what if it wasn't true? What if they didn't have a good time?
Do you think when you read the script and say, wow, what is this jousting thing, this Queen thing, this David Bowie thing?
Yeah, it was, I guess I was just curious to how he was going to pull it off.
Hey, how did you compose the character? Because I assume you know a lot of people like that in Hollywood.
Nobody as bad as Gwen. What I didn't base it on anybody in particular, but I just picked a few things up from a few people I've met and then put it into one kind of monster.
So what Joe made you say, hey, you gotta accept this?
Well, I knew Joe Roth, and he had when he sent it to me, I thought, you know, I really like working with him. So, and I thought the cast was amazing and a great part. So.
¿Cómo llegó el guión a tus manos de la película?
Bueno, la verdad es que cuando te llega una propuesta del deseo para dirigir Guillermo del Toro, ya me resultaba apetecible el proyecto, ¿no? Yo estaba loco por leer el guión.
Sexo, ya estaban hablando de la necesidad de sexo y tu mamá también se llama la peli. Y bienvenidos Gael García Bernal, ¿cómo va? Diego Luna, dos de los protagonistas, Alfonso Cuarón, director, y Carlos Cuarón, guionista y además hermano del director aquí presente. Bienvenidos todos a la Argentina y aquí al Acomodador. ¿Qué pasaba en sexo?
Es que en el tráiler no se ve de sexo, que quitaron el sexo y dejaron lo demás.
¿Y hay mucho sexo?
Pues dura 1 hora 20, imagínate.
¿Y es todo sexo?
Pues esta es la pajita y lo demás es puro... No, no es cierto.
¿Quieres decir pajita acá?
Sí.
¿Lo aplicó bien entonces?
No lo aplicó bien.
Ah, no.
No, todo lo contrario. Las escenas de sexo son muy cortas.
Pero
Varias, pero cortas. Es una oda a la eyaculación precoz.
Ajá, y bueno, son chicos, ya van a aprender a que dure más, tienen tiempo.
¿Verdad que sí?
Hay tiempo, hay tiempo, sí, hay tiempo. ¿Estamos actuando?
Sí, actuando.
Se le llama actuar, se le llama en estos días, sí.
¿Se le llama actuar, sí? ¿De qué se trata la peli? ¿Quién me explica? ¿Quién me explica de qué se trata la peli?
Es un viaje a la playa.
Ajá.
De ellos dos, con Maribel Verdú, que es ella, una española de 28 años.
¿Son dos amigos?
Sí, dos amigos que se llevan a conocen a una mujer mayor que ellos, antes de los 30 años, y se la llevan a la playa, la invitan a la playa, una playa que no existe, con la intención de follar.
Alfonso, vos trabajaste en Hollywood con La Princesita de Grandes Esperanzas. ¿Qué te produjo eso para hacer esta película y qué te dejó? ¿Qué aprendiste? ¿Qué no aprendiste? ¿Qué dijiste esto luego en México porque en Hollywood no se puede?
No, es que lo que pasa es que cada película aprendes muchísimo. Yo dudo que hubiese hecho esta película si no hubiese pasado por esas otras dos películas. Y el hacerlo en México es porque siempre había querido regresar a filmar en México. Y con esa historia pues se dio el chance. Además es una historia que no por estructura Hollywood o simplemente por tema, por color, el color que tiene la película solo se podía rodar en México y con personajes mexicanos.
¿Y por qué no tenías dinero a aceptar?
y porque Brad Pitt me dijo que no.
Digo, Diego viene a decir todo lo que no nos animamos, el resto él dice todo.
Así es.
Está sin editar, Diego, no lo editaron. Muy divertido.
Strange quirk and traits. How do you compose a character like this one? Because very distinguished.
Well, thank you. Well, I don't know. Designing Inspector Aberline for me was kind of. I just tried to sort of take into consideration the elements of his past that would have been impossible for him to live with without some kind of medication. It was sort of like the contemporary accounts of police officers who've admitted to having problems with alcohol and drugs based on their the sort of the darker side of their work. And I figured that Aberline would need to get close to death, in fact, in order to live, for him to be able to live without...
Was it your decision or a decision you came up with the directors?
Well, it was something that we talked about early on. It was something I was interested in, because like I said, I'd read those sort of accounts of modern day cops, and then I can remember reading I don't know, one of the very early counterculture books, a thing called The Hashish Eater, where a guy, it was written in like 1862 or something, where he was experimenting with hashish, which was very new to America at that time. You could get it at the candy store, at the pharmacy or whatever, and reading his experiences, his diaries of taking drugs in the 1860s. So yeah, it was something I wanted to explore, you know.
I'm very excited. I hope that people of all ages love it, you know, teenagers and young adults without kids, as well as families, because that's, we made the movie for everybody, you know. That's what's important to us.
How do you cover all the spectrum of the ages, you know, from kids to grandparents?
You know, part of it is that we make the movie for ourselves. The kind, you know, at Pixar, the kind of movies we want to see, that are, you know, have got a lot of great humor, that plays for adults as well as kids. It has heart, you know, it has sadness to it. Walt Disney always said, for every laugh there should be a tear. You know, and I think the audiences really get affected by that.
You're a great collector yourself.
I am a big collector. I love toys. I love toys. My office at Pixar has got floor-to-ceiling shelves, and it's just like toys of all types. In my job, I'm lucky. I don't have to grow up.
Yeah. Maybe if you grow up, you get fired.
Yeah, well, I would be boring, you know. But it's interesting that the story idea for Toy Story 2 actually came from my kids coming to visit my office. I have 5 sons, 4 of them are little, and of course they're my sons. They love toys. Well, they come into my office, and they love to come to Daddy's work to play with Daddy's toys. They just look, their eyes get big, and they want to grab everything and start playing with it, you know, and yeah, you know, and just like, yeah, playing with this, and just, you know, and I'm like, ah, these are like collectibles. You get, I know they're toys, but you can't play with them. Yeah. And I realized, John, what did you learn from the first movie? I mean, toys are put on this earth to be played with by a child. That's what they want to do more than anything else in the world. And all of a sudden, it's like this toy is a collectible, so therefore it has to sit up on a shelf, never to be played with by a child again. What kind of life is that for a toy? They want to be played with by a child. I thought, hey, there's a good story idea there. Fun.
Could it be that you can also animate the characters more flexible, you know, the close-ups and the...
Well, you know what? It's interesting is a lot of people look at that and go, look at the technical advance that's been made. But you know, to be honest, that is the skill of our animators. You have to understand that Toy Story was the first movie we made. And so this is now our 3rd movie. Our philosophy is to take all these tools and make something look almost real, the photorealistic tools, and then take a strong step into fantasy. And that's what we love to do, is to make a world of people, every frame, they know it does not exist, but it looks so real. And I think that's part of the it's part of the entertainment of this film.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Say bye.
Say bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Just like she used to do, like she loved me when she loved me. When somebody loved me, everything was beautiful. Every hour we spent together lives within my heart. When she loved me.
Well, that's great.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I played it all, but you can cut it up.
So you did also Bugs Life. How does it feel to be in a Disney animated feature doing the music?
They've been pretty interesting jobs. I mean, they've had a lot of variation. I mean, Bugs Life was you know, grasshopper flying after an ant, and they were going fast, and I had to go fast, and it was like an action picture, and had a real strong villain. And this is a big, you know, action outdoor drama, and you treat it like an adult picture in a sense that they are adults. They're not children.
So you have to combine the styles between a serious one, a dramatic one, and the cartoon style.
In this one, for sure, yes. But it ends up that it doesn't look right. If you know, if Woody or someone goes running, you almost have to, you know, you almost have to run with them to make it look right.
And Disney is always concerned with the music part in the animated features. You know, the music plays a huge part.
It does, yeah.
You know, how it does affect you, because you also...
I like it better. I mean, I've chosen the movies that I've done in my life on how important music was going to be. You know, I consider myself fortunate that these three pictures have been very good, you know, the Disney ones. But, and in these, they understand music, what it can do, what it can't do.
So how do you like the better, you know, your vocalist part, your songwriter, or composer?
You know, what I like best of anything, of any aspect of it, is the days recording movie music with the orchestra. But to get there, it's 80 days of, you know, non-stop writing, which is hard. I believe if I had to only do one, I'd probably keep writing songs. It may be what I do best.
Okay, so, well, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
won't ask you about Evita.
You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old past said. Boy, you got a friend in me.